Right. And so like it's typically a hard truth, but it's a great exercise to do because it exposes these detrimental things. Maybe that means you're talking to the wrong customer. Maybe it means you actually aren't solving a real problem. Maybe it means you're running the wrong fucking company.
Yeah. Welcome back to Marketing Teardown. Today we've got another special edition of Marketing Teardown. I'm here with Jake Hurwitz, who is currently a free agent. I think you're freelancing at the moment, right?
A little bit of contract work. About to start the next chapter pretty soon, though. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a free agent. He's in New York City right now. And Jake put together something called the Brand Canvas. And today we're going to go into brand marketing strategy of a company called Sofar Sounds. And they're actually a really cool company. They offer music lovers unique, intimate concerts around the world with your favorite artists. So it's like secret concerts and events in like someone's living room or like a cafe. Like a non-traditional venue, basically. It's not like a big concert hall. It's in like someone's living room, which is super cool. Go through the rules of the game real quick, and then we'll tear it down. So rules are simple. Got a timer pulled up with 30 minutes on the clock. I've got the company pulled up, Sofar Sounds. This is their website. And we have a Google Doc with a couple notes about the company, and then we're going to go down and break into their marketing strategy and build it here in this document. Little different, a little bit of a twist today. I've also got the brand canvas that Jake developed, and so we're going to reference this a little bit as we go through this teardown. So this is the first edition of the Marketing Teardown Brand Teardown. And Jake, you ready to get into things?
Let's do it.
All right. Hit start on that timer. We got 30 minutes ticking away. So I guess, first of all, could you give us kind of a breakdown real quick of the brand canvas process? And then we can get into the specifics of this company.
So the brand canvas is very similar to a business model canvas or a lean canvas that I'm sure many of you have actually done or heard of at some point in your career. That came out probably about like 10, 15 years ago or so, maybe a little bit less, but this is something I developed about 2 years ago that I bring to the early stage and then the pivot stage that often comes up with startups. With every startup I've worked on, I'm probably done it with about 15 to 20 or so at this point. And what it allows you to do is really dig into what's working in the brand, what's not working in the brand. And the goal is to get all 5 of these points to work together. And if one of them is not working, then the whole thing's broken. And so the hypothesis behind it is for your brand, if you're able to accurately answer all of these questions so that they work with each other, and I'll dive more into what that means, then you will be better suited and better positioned to have and to design a brand that is more memorable to your audience, more impactful to your audience. It just makes more sense on an actual subconscious and psychological level for them so that they understand it and they resonate towards it. So that's the brand canvas overall.
Nice. And we've got 5 elements here, right? We've got the why do you do what you do, the why. We've got the value you bring to your customers' lives, customer avatars, which would be similar to personas, like in an inbound methodology. What is your style, which you were telling me earlier, that's like the founders or the executive team's personal style, kind of what their background is and how it relates to the product. And then there's also how you would describe the brand if it were a child on a playground, which is super interesting.
Yeah. So the main thing to note is you always start with the middle one. Why do you do what you do? And then the other 4, you can go in any order. I like to recommend spending no more than 10 to 12 minutes on each section. That forces you, with an alarm clock, that forces you to focus on the most important pieces to start and then move on. You can go back and add to them later if you're in a really good thought process or just kind of push through that time, but I like to keep it quick. And then when you go through all 5, you go back to the why again. That's when you're feeling a little bit more vulnerable and trustworthy of the process, typically, and fill in any more why pieces. Then the last step is to audit and go through and see, okay, where are pieces not matching up? And as we dive into it for Sofar Sounds, we'll get a better idea of how that actually works overall.
Nice. That sounds good. So I want to then, before we actually get into things, I'll go over a few stats about kind of the basis of where we're coming from with Sofar Sounds. I did do a little bit of research on them before we started this video. They have about 500,000 visits a month to their website. Their website's custom built, looks like custom build using Bootstrap for the design. And then on kind of the rest of the digital presence, on the social side, they have 192,000 Facebook followers. And I think, Jake, you'd mentioned they have like specific regional pages and like city pages, like Sofar London, Sofar Seattle, Sofar Amsterdam, right?
Yep.
Cool. So they have that as well. And then they have about 824,000 subs on YouTube, about 39,000 Twitter followers, and then about 122,000 Instagram followers. So they've got a pretty big following. And we can kind of speculate at, how many people are on their mailing list, which is it looks how they, capture a lot of their audience and how they send a lot of offers, how they sell a lot of their products being tickets and events. I'd imagine they have at least 100, couple 100,000 people, if not some of them are in the range of 1 million people on their mailing list. And it looks like that's kind of their core platform.
There's a few pieces on that. I personally have no affiliation at all with Sofar. I have met the team once over a couple of conversations, or rather one conversation, and then talked to them over email. I am a member with the company, and I go to gigs almost every week. At this point, I've seen gigs in Denver personally. I've seen gigs in New York. I've seen them in London. I've seen them in Spain. And it's definitely, I think, my favorite startup in the world right now as far as the experience they're able to deliver. A very unique product, solving a real problem in people's lives. So I'm excited to dig into this just for a company that I love.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where the idea for doing this for Teardown came from. I was like, Jake, what company do you want to tear down? Like, what do you want to go into? And you mentioned this company, which I thought was super cool. And since I've started digging into this company, I have signed up for their products, and so I'm hoping to go to some shows soon. But I'm not as familiar with them at this point. Why don't we jump into the why and kick off this brand canvas teardown?
Let's do it. So if you want to open up the Google Doc, we'll start with why do you do what you do? So a little background. This is a story that's public. I found it on YouTube. There's a couple of videos of it, but the CEO, his name's Rafe Offer, founded this company about 10-ish years ago. I want to say something in that realm. And him and his friends were at a gig in Soho in London, just a standard show at a bar, and they couldn't hear the band. Him and his friends had this vision of, well, why don't we create gigs that people are actually intently paying attention to the music? They're there for the music and nothing else, and they're there for the community of people that are also there for the music. That's it. Respect the music, respect the art, respect the musicians. So their core why, from what I understand, is on the side of let's create deeper experiences for people.
I like it.
Move their life forward, gives them connection with other humans on a raw and authentic level. It drives the growth of music forward for musicians. Many musicians have been discovered and become quite famous on many. I mean, the average person would consider them famous based off of being discovered at Sofar. And they're also the largest global network of independent artists. I'm not sure if we can call that a record label, but I mean, they've got thousands of artists who are independent who have been affiliated with Sofar. And so it's a great place to also give local up and coming musicians a platform to get discovered. And I also know that for the locations, by the way, they're in 427 cities around the world. The last I checked. So they're continuing to grow. A lot of cities, and the vast majority of them are volunteer led. So you've got people that just want to MC. They just want to volunteer their time, which is an amazing case study on the power of music in 2019, that it can basically draw people together in such a way.
Yeah, I think we can move forward to the next one. So wait, hold on a second. I'm going to put these out of order, so hold on a sec. The value they bring to their customers' lives.
Let's go to customer avatars. That'll be a good next step in this case.
Okay, nice. We'll jump into. All right, customer avatars. Let's go.
So the goal with customer avatars, get to know your customers better than they know themselves. We're talking very deep level. So let's come up with an example here. We'll give her a name. Her name is Michelle. This is totally off the top of my head, by the way, based off what I assume is their customer avatar. So Michelle is 25 years old. She lives in New York City. She works at a marketing agency. She has an income of, she's an account. Let's call her an account manager at a marketing agency.
Okay.
We'll call it in the ballpark of $100,000 a year. So doing pretty well for New York. Nothing insanely. She's not living like a queen in New York, but she certainly can afford to have a nice social life, eat well, and have a nice place. So it's about around $100,000 a year.
Okay, New
on
York
weeknights.
salaries. A little different than
Yep, New York salaries.
like Atlanta or or
Totally.
Oklahoma or somewhere else. But
Yep. So she grew up in a city like that. Let's say she's from Atlanta and moved to New York because she wants to have live in. She's always dreamt of living in the big city. Loves music, loves art and culture. She spends her weeknights late at the office typically because that's the vibe of New York. And when she comes home, she's tired. And on the weekends, she's very much always on an adventure to explore something new in the city. That means Friday night, she's out seeing a show or out with friends. Saturday during the day, she's either walking around the park at a new place that she hasn't been, or she's going to a museum, to a new gallery opening. Saturday night,
yeah,
she's seeing more music or a new event of sorts. She's always out and about. She listens to a lot of alternative indie rock. She doesn't like country. She likes electronic music, but not the mainstream type of electronic music. And she has, let's call it like, are all also really into music. She
okay.
wears brand. She shops at Zara and she shops at a lot of thrift stores because she just loves the thrill of finding something new that has some history behind it. So I'll stop there. We get the idea. We can go on and on and on about Michelle. We can get into her food allergies. We can get into her biggest fears. We can get into her, what her parents do. We want to go there. That's the level that we want to go because now it's way easier to target and market to her.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I like this. And
so
I
for
want
the
to
sake of,
actually jump in real quick, by the way, as we're talking about customer avatars,
oh,
because
sure.
this is not necessarily a concept specific to building, like a brand in particular. You can use customer avatars for a lot of different types of marketing, a lot of different areas of marketing. I love what you're doing here because you're going so deep into this persona, right? You're going so far into who this person is. And I think a lot of the time as marketers, we don't necessarily go deep enough into our customer avatars. And I think there's certain information is really useful depending on what you're using avatars for. So for example, in like product development, you want to know actually a little bit more about like what features and like what aspects of your product different avatars are interested in. But for something like how you're going to do your PPC advertising, you want to know something like, okay, demographics. You want to know a little bit more about kind of like what interests your avatar has when you're doing some keyword research. And then for brand, of course, you're going to want to know, some of the stuff that we just talked about. But it's a whole different set of things. And I think it's really important when we're building avatars to go this deep. We want to get everything we possibly can so that we can, when it comes later to make a decision on strategy, what channels are we going to be advertising on? What are we doing in terms of product development? How are we going to build a brand? What type of brand should we have? We want to have that information ready. And so I love how deep we're going here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's
totally.
really important.
Yeah. And you know what? I've worked with many founders and many clients and entrepreneurs of the sorts from the marketing perspective, and the vast majority of them focus, in my opinion, on product. And in that early stage, when you're launching a product, assumption or really like guess that you have to take about a feature or a color or a speculative. So sure, I get the idea of A/B test and put something out there and see how it does. But another approach that I always recommend taking as an alternative is don't think about the product and the features as much. Think about the people that you're actually talking to. Think about the problems that they struggle with. And we're going to get into that with the next point of what's the value that you bring to their lives. But then the answers are there as far as what color should this be or what line of copy should we have. And so if you're ever feeling at a dead end on the side of, okay, what color should this be? Or what's the feature that we need to add here this week? Try for 1 week or 1 month or a couple months, take a step back and say, all right, let's go get to know our customers even better this week. You can never know them enough unless they're you, which is also a good thing.
Right.
So typically you're going to want to have 2 to 3 customer avatars. If you have more than that, you're marketing to too many people, which means you're not going to be able to focus very much, which means you're actually marketing to nobody. So
Yep.
2 or 3 different people. So in this case, Michelle's our 25-year-old in New York. Maybe we'll have Hank, who's our 32-year-old in Denver.
Wrapping that up, we've got one persona. We'll move on for the sake of time here, but ideally you should have multiple personas. I do also, one last thing here, want to mention that there are 2 sides to this, right? It's the 2-sided marketplace. There are the attendees and there are the artists that are going to be doing the shows. And so I think one thing that's important to understand about the business model here is that it is a two-sided marketplace. And so while we're building this for the audience side, there is the musician side as well to try to get the talent who's going to be performing at these events. And, you know, that's a whole nother set of marketing and brand challenges, but we'll just focus on, I think, the attendee side for this.
Not a chicken and egg. And there's a lot of marketplaces like that think they're a chicken and egg, but they're actually not. So in this case, if you can get 40 people to show up to a loft to listen to music, it's going to be pretty easy to get some musicians. But if you can't get those people, musicians have no one to play for, so they have no interest in being there.
Yeah, for sure. I also, by the way, so I was in some bands in high school and in college. I'm very familiar with the, oh, you're a small local musician trying to play a gig. Oh, okay, well, why don't you sell the tickets? And then you basically like try to convince all your friends to pay like $5-10 to go see your shows. And like that's happening so many times in so many venues all across the country. As like someone who's formerly been in the musician side, I would love it if someone was like, yo, just show up, play a show. We got 40 people. I'm like, boom, like done. Like, we were to go. Like, let's play. Let's do this.
Acoustic. Yeah, it's like an acoustic naked set. It's intimate. It's fun. I mean, musicians love it. Cool. So let's move on to the next one, which is what's the value that you bring to your customers' lives?
All right, value. Let's go. Let's do it.
We're going to use, so we're going to customer in this case. What we're trying to get to is understand what is the hole or the gap or the fear that Michelle truly feels in her heart and her soul and in her stomach. Like, what's that pit in her stomach that she carries with her throughout her life? We're humans. We all have something. We need to know what that is so that we can solve it for her. I believe that unless a company is delivering anything short of that, it's not really worthwhile. So we want to really solve a problem like that in someone's life.
Yeah.
Right, so in Michelle's case,
what's with Michelle? So Michelle, what are we looking at here?
So I'm thinking, again, making this up, but let's say we know our customers inside and out. Michelle works a lot. She works 85 hours a week, sometimes 100 hours a week, long days. She's just inundated with deadlines. Her clients at the marketing agency are all around the clock. They're calling her left and right. She's stressed. So on a Friday night, she is always looking for the best possible evening she could possibly have to let herself just feel some sense of stress relief. Obviously, she works out, she does yoga, she eats well, but it's just not enough. She needs one just real social event, and in her case, every week, to remind her that she's human and she's fun and she loves her life. So on Friday night, she's looking for an experience that's more, in her case, more meaningful than going to a really loud bar and talking to people that she has talking to. She's looking for a chance to discover new music. She obviously loves music and doesn't want to just go to another big arena show or bar show where you can't even hear it. So she wants to really discover new music. And she wants to connect with people. She's single, and so this is a great opportunity to meet people to date. She's got her friends from college and her friends from right after college, but in New York, people are working hard and they stick with their groups. So this is a chance to meet new people and step outside her comfort zone. You and her, what we're bringing to her is a transformative experience, something that she'll wake up the next morning and be like, that was the best night of my life. That was the best night I've had in a while. I met some amazing people. I met a great guy that I can't wait to go out with next week. I met 3 musicians that are all up and coming, and now they're my friends, and I can't wait to keep an eye on them. Oh, and there's another one tonight or tomorrow or next weekend. I'm going.
Let's do it again.
So this is a big value add for her, and it's important to understand that this is something that she can look forward to every week or every night if she wants to. She can look forward to it every month. Whatever, she can bring a date to go there. She can go with friends. She can just pop in for an hour, see a few sets, and then take off and then have a night after that. So now we've got a new type of social life, a new social experience, Michelle's life that she never had before.
I like what you're just getting at, a new type of social experience. That sounds like, that's like a tagline or a catchphrase you might see somewhere.
Yeah.
I like what you're getting at with that. Yeah. And I'm hearing it's a super fun night. You're into music. If you love music and you want to go and have a good time every Friday night, this is it. Just sign up and you're good. So I like that. What else we got in terms of value? I got discovered new music. We got connecting with people, friendship, dating, really fun night out, new type of social experience. You want to add anything else here?
For Michelle's case, let's call it a day on her. It's important to recognize that you will have different values for different personas.
Yep. Adding that as a note right here, different values for different personas. Really good point. Cool. So you want to move on to the next one? We're tearing up our time, by the way. We've got 7 minutes left on our 30-minute clock, so maybe we can jump back into
That's good. And style's a quick one, but child on the playgrounds, this is my favorite. So now we're going to get back onto the side of Sofar. So now Sofar is the brand that we're digging into. How would you describe Sofar Sounds if it were a child on the playground?
Right. So by the way, when you're talking that, all I'm picturing is like a hipster 6-year-old with like oversized glasses, like really nice clothing, like sitting there with like a fake latte.
Perfect. All right. So I got that visual too. So now we want to really understand this child. So we're going to go to this level. You ready? This is Bobby. Bobby is 6 years old on the playground. And every time someone thinks of this question, they visualize typically their elementary school playground.
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting because that's exactly what I thought.
Figure this is probably the playground that either your kids go to or that you went to as a kid. So Bobby's 6 years old. Bobby is very happy playing by himself in the sandbox. He is he's got a couple of like toy trucks. He's building some little sandcastles, huge smile on his face, covered in dirt, doesn't care. He's got some holes in his jeans, blue jeans. He's wearing a t-shirt it's like a tie-dye t-shirt with a picture of a couple frogs on it. He's really into frogs. And he's got, like you said, the big glasses that maybe they're pretty crooked. He doesn't care. Bobby has a wild imagination. He's so friendly. So when other kids come over, he's like, hey, do you want to work on this sandcastle with me? And it's also a case study that goes to show that at all ages, kindness will win. And so he's everybody's friend. Everyone's welcome to play with him. It's basically this inclusive environment that he's created for all the other students. Even the bullies want to hang out with him. He's that cool. He's got a pair of just dirty white Converse high tops on. But you love it. The teachers love him. But they also are a little bit intimidated by him in the sense that he's always questioning the status quo. He always asks, why do we need to do this assignment? Why do we have homework? And he's asking these big why questions. And at such a young age, it's a little bit like, where is he getting this inquisitive nature from? Okay, I'll stop there for Bobby. We're going to that level. And this list can go on and on and on and on and on. You may have heard many other times as a marketer, common questions like, if your brand was a cookie, what type of cookie would it be? If your brand was a type of car, what type of car would it be?
Yeah, and the car question is one that I'm familiar with, that I've heard of as like a go-to kind of question, brand question.
Yeah, they're all basically the same. For the most part, you're really digging to like that raw understanding. It's a good exercise to answer as many as you can. Car, sandwich, clothing line, shoe brand, whatever. My personal favorite is child on the playground. The reason I love the playground in particular is because a child on the playground is the most pure, soulful, honest, just raw version of an individual that it ever has been and ever will be. And it's crucial that you understand the same mechanics mentally for your brand.
I like that.
When we circle back as to how this all fits together, we'll get a better understanding as to why that's so crucial for a brand when you're designing it.
Yeah, and I like that more than like a car or like a candy bar or something like that, because like those are like nice to have. It's like, oh, I want a car, and maybe depending on the type of person you are, you're like, yeah, I want like a trophy car, or like I want a sports car, and it's just like, well, like, do you want a trophy brand? It's like, what kind of company are you trying to build here, or is it, where are we going with this? Which honestly might say something in itself, but I like the idea to get down to the raw kind of base nature of the brand as if it were a human being. I think that's an interesting angle that you put on this.
Yeah, certainly. Cool. So let's dive into the last one. What is your style? This one's quick. This one's the easiest, but it's actually one of the most important. The question here, what is your style, is directed towards the founding team of the company. It's so important that it's the founding team of the company because the ones answering it are the ones who brought it to life in the first place. They're the ones who have the most passion. They just naturally have the most passion, the most obsession for the fact that this even exists, this brand exists in the first place. And the reason that we have to understand what their style is as people, as humans, as founders, is because you can't fake it. Chris White from Shinesty actually taught me this a couple years back, but his example was Shinesty, they make irreverent, hilarious party clothes, the big crazy suits and Speedos and all that. And his example that I love is he could not run a wedding brand because his style is irreverent humor with bold colors and crass jokes, and they're kind of teetering on that line of appropriate or inappropriate.
Yeah. That's kind of the opposite of a wedding, of like anything wedding.
Exactly. Yeah, and a wedding brand would be very clean lines, very elegant, a lot of whites, a lot of dull tones, and so it's not to say that either brand is better or worse, but rather he wouldn't be the right fit to run that type of company, that type of brand, because it can't speak naturally from his soul. So
for Sofar Sounds, then, in the case of these guys,
Sofar Sounds, I'm gonna speculate just based off the content that I've seen of the founding team. These guys are hipsters. They're definitely hipster. They're a little bit more grungy and industrial. They hang out at places with brick walls and outlets that hang from the ceiling. They wear sometimes fedora hats and a lot of ripped jeans. They listen to a lot of indie music. We can kind of speculate based on the type of person that would hang out at a Sofar event, what their style would be. And again, for the sake of time, we don't need to dig too far into it, but it's crucial to recognize that if they tried to start a brand like Bro Bible or a brand like The Knot, which are just all completely different stories, it just wouldn't work. You can't fake it. The second you try to fake it, your customers will know, even if it's subconscious.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, by the way, our timer just went off. We just hit 30 minutes, but we'll keep going for a bit. Circle back to the why, and then we'll wrap it up. I think for just those couple of bullet points, I mean, you had it at Hipster. I think we're already on the same page that, these guys are their audience. They started this because they wanted it, because they loved it, and their audience is the same. So the personas are probably matched really closely with them.
Yep. So let's go back to the why real quick, and then we're going to bring all 5 pieces together. So now we're at a point where we can dive even deeper on the why. So quick recap. And by the way, we probably only have like 2 more minutes here, so we're good. We're almost at the end. So a quick recap on the why was, we want more intimate experiences for people. We want a better place for musicians to get seen. Now let's take it a step further. We believe that art moves, I'm going to kind of just quote something here. We believe that art and music feeds the soul, and creativity is the future of our success as a nation, or as a community, as a earth, whatever you want to call it. Creativity we believe is just the core soul of innovation and the future. And we're in a world right now that is, people are struggling, people are lonely, people are having a hard time, and to deliver a raw experience to them helps them get out of bed in the morning, helps them show up to work on Monday with a smile on their face, gives them a core purpose. When they meet somebody new, they are excited to talk to them rather than, oh God, another person I have to talk to. They're proud of themselves. They have confidence. They feel good. And happiness means a better life for everybody when your people are happy. So we want to take it to that level.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're going really deep there. That is very
as deep as we possibly can. As deep as we possibly can go. And a good way to get there is to just keep asking why. So you ask your client or your founder, or you ask yourself, why do you do this? And they'll say, because blah, blah, blah. And you say, okay, why do you care about that? And they'll say, blah, blah, blah. And you say, okay, why do you care about that? And you keep asking why 10, 20 times until finally you're crying. They're crying. There are tears falling from their face because they had this epiphany realization as to like what moves their heart and soul forward. That's where we're going with it.
Okay. Yeah. This is reminding, by the way, of, I think a lot of people might be familiar with Simon Sinek. He did a very famous now TED Talk called Start With Why, kind of a similar concept maybe.
Exactly that. And that's where I drew a lot of this inspiration from, is from Simon.
Nice. Well, I guess this is a little different though, because you start and you finish with why. So we got to bring it back full circle.
So now the final step is to audit. You want to make sure that all of these pieces are working together. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is, for example, your customer or persona, Michelle, she has to actually struggle from the value, the piece of value that we're going to be able to deliver to her. That actually has to be something in her life. And she needs to see herself in Bobby as that child on the playground. And Bobby needs to have the same why in his mind behind all of it. So every piece needs to work with every other piece. By mapping this out on the actual canvas itself rather than in an outline, you're able to very clearly see where pieces are not matching up. And very frequently, that is where the harsh reality sits in of, oh God, we've been doing this wrong all along, or we need another person on our team, or we need to get rid of this person on our team, or we've been talking to the wrong customers this whole time. So that's what makes going through the brand canvas often very difficult emotionally, because it oftentimes like crushes a lot of the progress and success that you have as a founder, as a team, as an entrepreneur, as a marketer for your client. And then you have to deliver that news to your client, which is even harder. But it's good because it's those harsh realities that allow you to take a step back and reset, pivot if needed, and then go from there. And building off of those platforms only gets you way higher, much closer to success in the long run.
For sure. So I want to see if I can maybe give me a yes, no on kind of takeaways from this, because I want to get a little, like, how can we take this and kind of translate to something that would be actionable after you go through this exercise? So I'm going to throw a few things out there and let me know if this is hitting what, might be a good outcome of this. So after running through this whole process of the brand canvas, let's say your customer avatar of who you're currently selling to doesn't match up with everything else. So that probably means there's not product market fit, and you probably need to go after, maybe we might want to look at finding a different market to be selling into. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. It could also be that the way you are positioning it to your people might be incorrect.
Got you. And that might be like if the value that you're offering is a little different than what's being there. Like maybe if there's a value and avatar kind of mismatch, that might be the case.
Certainly. Another piece that's important to recognize that you can glean pretty much every asset of your brand from a visual standpoint and a messaging standpoint from this document. So maybe you're just using the wrong colors. Maybe, you're using the wrong logo. And when you go back to this canvas, I mean, I have these up on the wall above my desk at my office. The idea is you can always refer back to this as like, oh, what's our spine? What's our guiding light of basically every decision we have to make? Because if Michelle hates pink, why would we make the button pink? If Michelle likes humor, use humor.
Yeah, don't be so serious. No, I like that. That's a good point. And that also, I mean, that really goes back to what we were talking about earlier about going deep on your personas and really being thorough about this too. I mean, and one of the other areas here, right, the value that you bring to people. I mean, you can translate this, it's been said a lot of times, USPs, unique selling propositions, your value props, whatever, something like that, your sales copy, for example. If you don't go deep on it in an exercise like this, then later when you're going to say, write the copy on your website or create an advertisement, or maybe you're doing a video that's going to run on TV as a TV commercial. If you don't have those nailed down and it's not figured out with something like this, you're going to fuck it up later, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
So, all right. So I do want to move on to a few other things here, a few key takeaways. I did notice you said earlier, one of the things is, hey, if the style of the team isn't matching up, right, and this is the founding team, maybe you need to, bring on somebody else to the team, or maybe someone on the team isn't the right fit. So it sounds like there's also like a team culture thing here where it's like, do you have the right people on your team?
Team is everything. I mean, it's one of the top reasons why startups fail. It's a tough one because it becomes personal, and when things become personal, it's tough. And so I've seen teams come out of these exercises and have to shift up their team dynamic, and it's always for the best. It truly always is for the best.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That makes a lot of sense. And it's that's a hard thing to do too, right? Because I feel like a lot of times people get kind of set in their ways and in their team dynamics, and it's like, well, how do you even identify when there's problems? Sometimes it's hard to even figure that out.
One of the things I'd say is it's also a great exercise to figure out, maybe you're a solo founder and you're looking for a co-founder. This is a great way to figure out who you would need. Obviously you need complementary technical abilities, but if you're running a certain brand, you need someone that fits that brand, that fits that culture, fits that lifestyle. It's a great way to audit to figure that out.
Yep. And I do also, on that note, I want to make a mention that Sofar Sounds has been around for a little while, right? They're kind of established. They have a lot of this stuff figured out. You run this a lot of the time for companies that are either the company itself is new or they're launching a product that maybe hasn't been tested in the market. So a lot of the time this might be harder to figure out like than what we put together today. What we put together today, we're trying to get the finishing touches on something that's already working. There's already got 1 million people that are interested in this, right? So I think that's a pretty clear distinction about, how you're going to use this in your business, right?
Totally. And I know Sofar now, I mean, I would assume that they're about to double down on building out a bigger mobile app, just delivering just a deeper experience to their customers and their loyal fans. That's a great time to go through this brand canvas again, because it helps them relearn things that they maybe overlooked in their scaling process. It allows them to kind of get back to their roots and remember why they started in the first place. And it also just opens up doorways and opportunities for so many things as they're going to now take it really to the next level, raising a bunch of money, scaling big time, delivering like hard products to a loyal customer base that hasn't been paying you any money for a long time. That's a risky place to be in as a startup. You have to do that right. And you kind of get one shot. You get one shot.
Oh, for sure. And I'm hearing, especially when we're talking scale, right? I mean, the why is super important. You see dollar signs. Oh, here's 10 million, 20 million in VC funding in front of you. You're like, let's go spend this. But you can't forget the why, and you can't forget, what actually brings value, right? Now you have a big war chest. Say, okay, all right, let's go spend $5 million developing this new product. Well, we got to know it's the right product first. We got to have all this stuff nailed down. So, I think every aspect of what we just talked about here is super important, because if you miss any one of it when you're going to spend money to scale, that could be a big miss.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
So it's a really good point. All right. So wrapping up all of it, I don't know, we usually do some kind of key takeaways, if we're going to say like next steps for a company to take based off of kind of our teardown process. And in this case, it's a little different because it's kind of new. We're doing a brand teardown, which we've never done on marketing teardown before. But maybe if we could say next steps to run this process, what would you recommend Sofar Sounds go and do to start figuring this stuff out with their brand?
Yep. Next step I'd say is get your founding team together and the head of department. But keep it as small as you possibly can. Too many cooks in the kitchen. This is not going to work as well. So I'm talking 3, maybe 4 people max. Get your founding team in a room together for 90 minutes with a whiteboard. Draw the brand canvas out on the whiteboard in black marker or one color, and then pick up a different marker to then fill in, different color marker to then fill in all of the spots on it. Tech-free zone. There's no technology in the room. You're not distracted on your computer. You're not on your phone. And you also don't do anything beforehand. So coming in with notes on personas beforehand is not the way this is done. This is very much on the spot, like first thing that comes to mind, work on it as a team.
What's in your brain?
Totally. Like you want to keep this natural. No research, just keep this natural. And don't beat yourself up if you don't know. This is a great way to figure out the things that you don't know that you can then go figure out later. If you don't know your people that well, then like, awesome. Now you have homework. Go do your homework. So next steps would be fill out the brand canvas. Roughly about 10 to 15 minutes per section, and then come back to the why again at the end. It's, again, crucial that you start with the why and you end with the why. The other 4 sections can go in any order. And then if you really find yourself in the flow state on one of the sections and in a good spot, then fine, go over a couple of minutes. But it's good to put the timer on each section so that you can really stay focused on the core details versus the minutia, the little finer things that don't matter as much.
Nice.
And that's really the next step. And then after that, take a picture of it. Everybody should then go home or take a walk because it's a lot to digest alone. To have some alone time or do what you got to do to digest things like this, and revisit the next day or a couple days later. And now it's time to start making some decisions based off your findings. That can mean anything. It can mean we have to redo our website. It can mean we have to hire a new person. We have to fire somebody. It can mean we have to change our logo. It can mean we have to raise money. It can mean we have to go completely build a new product, or we have to all go move to Bali and never talk to human beings again. Those are what I would say would be next steps. And if anyone listening to this ever wants to ask me about the process or get feedback or ask questions about it, more than happy to chat. You're welcome to find me on LinkedIn or over email. This is a philosophy/framework that, like I said, I developed about 2 years ago, always looking to improve it. One piece I would say is there are dozens, if not hundreds, of these processes on how to build a great brand. This is just one of them. And it's one that I've been working off of. I've seen it work for a number of startups that I've worked with. Dozens of startups that I've worked with actually, that this is the process that we've used. And like I said, always looking to make it better.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I was about to say transition to an outro, but that was the most seamless outro transition that I've heard in a long time. So, with that note, like Jake said, if you want to talk to him about this process, you can find him on LinkedIn. That's Jake Hurwitz. You can probably see how you spell his name in the screen grab from Zoom while you're watching this. And if you want to find me, Andrew Ishimaru, you can find me on LinkedIn or reach out to my company. It's optimotive.co. Hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Take care. Have a good night.
the share and get my notes. All right. And 3, 2. I'm just kidding. All right, guys.